Tuesday, November 21st, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So I'm going to look at the markets. I'm going to look at a very controversial book called The Nameless War by Captain A.H.M. Ramsey. Before I start, though, I wanted to announce that the Casutel ICO has been extended again till December 1st. So it's still running. We are in the second phase, and I spoke to the marketing guy at Casutel, and he said they actually expect phase 3 to be closed or to be achieved by December 1st. And I've calculated here, they've raised almost $450,000 already. And to those of you who don't know, Casutel ICO, they're raising capital through the ERC20 blockchain to basically develop infrastructure in West Africa for high-speed internet access. Many of you might think, this is old technology, but for West Africa and especially Guinea-Bissau, it's very, much needed. So yeah, they're extending the ICO to December 1st. What else? Well, I bought some of these tokens in the first phase, and I paid about $16 for them, equivalent. And right now in phase 2, they're trading for about $27.75. So, phase 1 is at 5 cents. Phase 2 is at 7.5 cents. So phase 3 is going to be at 10 cents. So if they do get to phase 3, I expect, to have almost doubled my money, assuming it, the token starts trading and then I can get out of it. Or I might want to hold it as a long-term investment. This is basically, this ICO is to raise capital, and your tokens will be like shares in the company. So just wanted to let you know. I've also noticed on ETHEREUM that activity, as you can see, since the beginning in August when it started, is picking up the activity in the Casutel tokens. So now back to the markets. Yeah, gold and silver have done fairly well today. I know we're still below where we ended last week, around 1294, but seeing what we did, considering what we saw yesterday, the fact that the market got whacked yesterday afternoon, London time, I think it was probably around around 10:30 or 10 a.m. New York time, we just dumped. And this morning, we stayed below 1280. And surprisingly, as the U.S. has come in here now, we've gone up to 1285 almost, and right now we're at 1282.20. Silver has done really well to come back above 17, so it's up 10 cents. The Dow is up 152. Am I surprised? No. Up 2/3%. S&P up 16, 2/3%. NASDAQ up 60, up 1%. Why do I think the stock market keeps going up? Well, because monetary policy is highly, loose, very loose, highly accommodative. All the rubbish we've been hearing from central banks, especially the Fed, that they're going to do this and that. They're raising rates, they're going to unwind QE. It's all rubbish, because if monetary policy was tight, the stock market wouldn't be so exuberant, because the fuel for stock markets is always margin and leverage. And how do you get that? With easy money. So that's what's going on. When that's going to end, I don't know. A lot of people have tried to guess the exact date, but I think that's really, a fool's errand in my opinion. So what else is going on? Currency-wise, looks like the pound and the euro are really steady. Nothing going on. Dollar is a little weaker against the yen, 0.25%. So maybe that's what's helping gold a little bit. And now to this book, very controversial. I want to say that I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not racist. I respect everyone for you know, their character and how they are, how they act. I don't care about their religion, you know, their color or anything. But this book is considered anti-Semitic. Well, the writer of it, Captain A.H. Ramsey. And I'll talk about Captain Ramsey. It says here, Captain Archibald Henry Mole Ramsey, 1894 to 1955, was a British Army officer who became Britain's only serving member of Parliament to be detained under the anti-democratic Defense Regulation 18B during World War II. An avowed opponent of Jewish power in Britain, Captain Ramsey was arrested in 1940 and only released in 1944. So they arrested him during the war. And he was a member of Parliament. He immediately took up his seat in Parliament once again, once he was freed. So he was actually an MP. And this book was written in 1952, is part autobiography and part political exposition. He reviews Jewish influence in British history and reveals the hidden hand behind many dramatic historical events. Actually, I'm not going to talk about the whole book, but there's a part because I've read this book a while ago and I started reading it again recently, and it's quite amazing, you know, what he said in parts of this book. It's on page 17 here. And I quote, and he says, "The real objective of the Glorious Revolution," that's in England. I think, you know, that's when Charles I was beheaded, you know, and then you got Cromwell took over. He says, "The real objective of the Glorious Revolution was achieved a few years later in 1694, when the royal consent was given for the setting up of the Bank of England," and he puts Bank of England in quotes, and the institution of the national debt. This charter handed over an anonymous committee the royal prerogative of minting money, converted the basis of wealth to gold, and enabled the international moneylenders to secure their loans on taxes of the country instead of the doubtful undertakings of some ruler or potentate, which was all the security they could previously obtain. So basically, he's just described the whole monetary system, why we've got so much national debt now, and how they keep supporting it, and how and why, when the Federal Reserve was created, they needed to create the inland revenue as well, because he says here, and it enabled the international moneylenders to secure their loans on taxes of the country. So this was written in 1955 by this guy. So there's another part here that I find really interesting, and I think he was against gold, but more because gold was controlled by the moneylenders, and it was forced upon England to become the standard, because England used to use silver and even the tally stick. But he goes on to say, gold was soon to become the basis of loans, 10 times the size of the amount deposited. In other words, 100 pounds in gold would be legal security for 1,000 pounds of loan. At 3%, therefore, 100 pounds in gold could earn 30 pounds interest annually with no more trouble to the lender than the keeping of a few ledger entries. Well, basically, he's describing fractional reserve system and how basically, you know, by having fractional reserve, they're actually making a lot more on their you know, loans. Because they're like basically giving loans with money that doesn't exist. And then he basically, this next paragraph to me summarizes why since 1971 especially, and you know, the fiat money system and fractional reserve combined, why there's so much inequality in the world. You know, we've seen those infographics, how, you know, like 0.01 or 0.3%, you know, of the population owns like 70% of the wealth or something like that. Something really, you know, and how, you know, the bottom 70% only own like a fraction. So this paragraph to me says it all. And it says, the owner of 100 pounds equivalent of land, however, still must work every hour of daylight in order to make perhaps 4%. The end of the process must only be a matter of time. The money lenders must become millionaires. Those who own and work the land, the Englishman and the Scotsman, must be ruined. I couldn't have described it better, you know, why financialization and why Wall Street and the City of London are, you know, the hedge funds and the bankers are all in charge, and they're more than millionaires now. You know, he forgot to say billionaires. I guess in 1952, when he wrote this book, he probably couldn't imagine the term billionaire. So I thought this was really interesting. So if you want to look at this book, you can Google it and search it and buy it online, The Nameless War. And controversial book. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it far and wide. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. And you can also follow me on Twitter and on steemit.com. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.